King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at kingcomics.ca, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby. Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, and this is Big Baby Reviews. All right, so I've gotten past the first week of episodes. Hopefully these are getting better. I don't know, really. I'm just kind of cranking them out. Trying not to pause for too long and keep talking and hopefully sound interesting. So we're continuing on the trek towards the singularity, I would call it, of my comics collecting and passion for comic books. So the first week was stuff I encountered as a kid. Now I'm still a kid, but I'm not yet a full-fledged kind of comic book collector. And the moment where I do become that, I also kind of dive head into, illustration and drawing and superheroes and all that. We are approaching that moment. That's what I call the singularity. So this is kind of a crossover comic for me. And basically what this is the first comic I can actually consciously remember buying. So my dad was in the army. We moved around a lot across all of Canada. So I've lived in 3 different provinces: Quebec, where I'm from, Ontario, and British Columbia. So when I see this comic, it reminds me of British Columbia. That's where I discovered comics kind of, fully. Near my house, couple blocks away, maybe a 2-3 minute walk, was what's called, if any of you out there are army brats, at least Canadian army brats, you're gonna know what the Cannex is. Depending on the military base you live on, the Cannex can be like a corner store. It could be kind of a bigger store, almost like a small Walmart. Sometimes there's gas for your car. It depends really on which military base you're on, how many people are there. So this specific Cannex, I don't remember if there was gas. It was basically like a corner store, like what we call here in Quebec a dépanneur. Corner store. We have those all across Canada, right? Quickie, 7-Eleven in the States, those kind of areas. And they had a stand for magazines back then, because people still read books and magazines. And they also had a rack where there were comic books. So that's where I discovered this. And at the time, I was really into video games. So I've been playing Double Dragon for a while there. So I definitely recognized the characters, and I thought they were interesting. They had kind of a new look, obviously, different from the video game. And I have to say, this is a pretty attractive cover. Great artist that, again, I didn't know at the time who the cover artist was, who the interior artist was, really, or didn't have much concept of that. I don't even know if I knew in this specific instance that they were 2 different artists. So the cover is done by Larry Stroman, who would later go on to do X Factor and Tribe for Image. Great artist, always liked his stuff. And this would lead to disappointment later on. This idea that one artist does the cover and another artist does the interiors. In this case, even now today, I'm like, I accept it just because both artists are pretty solid. And again, back then, did I even know they were 2 different artists? Maybe not. Like, their styles are, I guess, kind of complementary, as we'll see when we open it up. But this concept of different cover artists and then interior artists, I would get burned on a bunch of times until I learned my lesson as a kid that, you open it up and you make sure that the interior art is, the as represented by the cover art, So if I get, I had a few comics I remember that I got classic Marvel Tales or something like that, and they had McFarlane covers, right? And that's why I got them, and was very disappointed to open them up and see that it was, old-timey 70s comics or whatever reprint they had put in there, very disappointing. So in this case, that's what they did here, but both artists are pretty solid. So, even now it kind of works for me, and back then it totally worked for me. Again, this being from a video game that I really enjoyed. So let's have a look. Let me make sure that's centered. Pretty good. So yeah, already, this first splash page is very graphic, very attractive, very well drawn, simple but effective. And so the creative team, Dwayne McDuffie is the writer, Tom Rainey is the penciler. So Tom Rainey, I later found out, he was never a top tier artist, it seems, but he did a lot of interesting work. And I always really liked his stuff. I have other annuals and stuff that he drew here in my library. But definitely a skilled artist. Like I really like his stuff. Brad Van Cata is the inker and also the colorist. Pat Brosseau is the letterer. And yeah, I don't value editors much. Just gonna be honest. So yeah, once you open this guy up, you know, like even here, even though this is Tom Rainey on the interiors, and I gotta say right away, like the design works, the layouts and stuff, I find interesting already. I don't know if these guys, Stroman and Rainey, were working in the same studio, but you know, there's still something that meshes between their styles, even though they're not exactly the same. There's just something about it. There's an approach that's similar. And when I look at these characters here, even though Tom Rainey drew the interiors, I have to think, if those aren't Larry Stroman designs, like at least I feel like these characters here, I could be wrong, but you know, I definitely feel that from these three figures here. Lots of nice design work. Very cool. Again, the layouts. Some dot patterns. Really using a lot of different stuff here. This shot here, I think, is very cool. This technology, this ship, you know, the design of it and stuff, very nice. Very clean style. Very kind of fairly modern, you know. I wouldn't say quite like Image, but imagey. Maybe just slightly less overdone imagey style. It's definitely a 90s kind of look. I guess I'll put it that way. Yeah, this doesn't look like the 80s Marvel House style. They're starting to use the microns and stuff, I think, for the inking. Or at least the Hunt 102 and less of the brush. So yeah, I'm not getting too much in the story here. It's just the Double Dragon story retold again and again. You know, here I guess they're conferred powers by some sort of magic dragon. Kind of looks like that dragon in the old He-Man cartoon, who appeared in the new He-Man cartoon, the latest one. I forgot the exact name because there's like resuscitation and resurrection and predilection. I don't know. They all have these titles that are similar to me. But that last one I watched was very interesting, very cool. I thought it was all right. Storytelling was a little rushed and compacted, but I mean, the complaint was that it wasn't before, I think, with the prior series. So yeah, enjoyed that. Sorry, I may go off on He-Man rants. Really like He-Man. All right. So yes, the dragon confers, you know, armor and new powers and stuff. So it's kind of a slightly updated, maybe, I don't think Dragon Ball is out yet, but maybe, you know, that kind of vibe. They've powered up somehow. This feels like Deadline. This is cool. Not the best page, gotta be honest. I mean, he's trying, but I feel like Deadline may be starting to catch up to him. I might be wrong. It's not for me to judge. It happens. Then back here, this stuff looks great. This character here, some weird color holds, hard to see here. I don't know how effective that is. Maybe works a little bit better here, but it's a little dark here. Is this... To me, this is some sort of homage to the video game. I think the first one where you're climbing up and then you're fighting, and you know, it's not exactly like this, but I do think that's some sort of callback to the video game. It's interesting design here. It's cool. It's a cool image. Very well done. It's one of those image anchor images without, you know, being too pin-uppy. It still kind of works well within the storytelling. Something kind of weird in the proportions. Is he very big here for the motorcycle? Like he's a giant all of a sudden? Is it just me? Like he's taller than the guy in the, you know, in the foreground, and he's in the background. A little odd. Here they seem pretty proportionate. Just the motorcycles are just odd, going into odd directions. At least this, I don't know, looks odd to me. Yeah, good stuff overall, but you know, some awkward posing every once in a while. More maybe deadline stuff. These pages, though, there's something about them. These ones are very cool. This shot here, part of the bridge in the foreground. You know, the design of the pages, that's pretty cool. This looks good. The foot, I'd just give it to him. That's a good foot. Oops, just bumped the camera. Apologies. So then this character that we saw, excuse me, at the beginning, shows his face. He's got these weird kind of clavicle arms. I don't know the physics of that. You know, I don't think a clavicle could support such a huge arm, but it's comic book. Looks cool. This is almost like Michael Golden, that kind of style here, I find. Almost like American manga. And then the pages, just those few pages before were pretty good. Layouts interesting, and they just get kind of boring. These 2 pages I just think are kind of boring storytelling wise. There's still a lot of action going on. There should be some more horizon tilting and, you know, perspectives and stuff. And there's just, maybe it's, again, deadline. I don't know. Like these 2 poses aren't that similar, but it's the same angle. Need to vary that stuff. But this is early Tom Rainey too. He got a lot better. You know, he's still working in those early 90s, you know, slick kind of look. So it looks modern, at least for the early 90s. So of course, Double Dragon, they're stronger when they're together. The obvious thing. This is kind of interesting. This panel, these 2 panels here. Dividing the moment into. And yeah, once again, pretty boring pages here. And that's the end of the issue. Just forgot to tell you, this is a July release. Just so we follow the chronology, July 1991. So I usually mention it at the beginning of the video. I'll mention it now. Would have been 10 years old when this came out. And again, first comic book I bought off the rack. Definitely inspired by my love at that time of video games. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you next episode.